National Valkyria School, April 2032. Director Kim addresses a fresh crop of students, asking if they're mentally prepared. The first test is a combat format they do every year: defeat the goblins. Everything is being broadcasted live to the public. The citizens are watching closely, evaluating every student's performance. The director warns them that these results will dictate their entire future at the school. Kuremura Takoyaki doesn't hold back, smashing a goblin into the dirt with his heavy gauntlets. Minase Shizuku moves with cold precision, slicing through monsters with her bladed spear. Another student leaps into the fray, weapon raised high. A massive spear strike creates an explosion that clears the field. People across the country are glued to their screens, debating who looks the strongest. In the school, strength is the only currency. The strong are guaranteed fame and wealth. But then, a loud, frantic shouting starts echoing through the forest. The camera drones quickly pivot to find the source of the noise. Out comes Asahi Hinata, sprinting for his life in a tacky yellow spandex suit. A goblin catches Hinata with a heavy blow right to the head. The livestream comments are brutal, mocking the school for even admitting somebody like this. He groans, stumbling as he gets hit again by a simple branch. Hinata desperately reaches for a tree branch to defend himself, but as soon as he touches it, a surge of electricity shocks his arm. A system window warns him that the beginner's suit prevents the user from equipping weapons. The goblin looms over him, club in hand, proceeds to beat him mercilessly while the world watches his humiliation. Hinata lies on the grass, gasping for air as a monster stands over him. Even after that pummeling, he starts to push himself up from the dirt. Blood drips from his nose, but he forces himself to stand. He charges the goblin again, screaming with zero gear and zero fear. The internet is having a field day, laughing at the kid in the trashy suit. This national failure serves as proof that the school has ranked him at the absolute bottom. Shizuku lands in Class A, while Hinata and Takayuki are sent to the bottom tier Class E. Everything changed when the otherworldly war began years ago. Human weapons were useless against the monsters that suddenly appeared. Humanity could only wait for death. A young Hinata could only watch as his city turned into a war zone. Massive dragons descended from the sky, bringing the world back to the brink of destruction. Fire rained down on everyone. No one was safe. That's when relics appeared. Weapons manifested from the soul that finally allowed humans to fight back. Hinata's father was one of those heroes, wielding a shield to protect the citizens. He was Hinata's role model, but even heroes have their limits. His father stayed behind to hold the line, yelling for Hinata to take Shizuku and run. His final words were a command for his son to get stronger, strong enough to protect everyone. Young Hinata could only cry as he realized what was happening. He fled through the flames, leaving his father behind, but carrying that promise with him. A hand reaches out from the burning wreckage of a childhood lost. Hinata and Shizuku were left with helplessness that stayed etched in their hearts, so he pushed himself. He trained in the rain, year after year after year. He lifted weights until his muscles screamed, determined to get stronger. Every strike against the bag was fueled by his father's final words echoing in his mind. Half a year passed since he entered the top warrior training school, and he's finally come to a realization. In this place, his effort is just a joke to people like Takayuki. Bloodied and leaning against the wall, he's told to go play errand boy for the bullies. A carton of milk is emptied over his head, a cold baptism in the hierarchy of the school. Hard work doesn't guarantee a thing. That's just the reality of this world. Takayuki slaps a hero appear sign on his back, laughing at the irony. Hinata walks the halls as a punchline, listening to the students snicker at the loser in the hero suit. His face is a map of bruises, the physical cost of his stubbornness. Then he sees her. Minase Shizuku walks past, the academy's perfect honor student. They pass each other in silence, two people who used to be everything to one another. He looks back, but she doesn't stop. She doesn't even acknowledge that he exists. They were old friends who lost their fathers on the same day. They used to support each other, but the school has built a wall between them that he can't climb. She's the elite honor student with a relic that everyone envies, and he's the dropout whose relic is mocked as nothing but cosplay. He stands in the doorway, bread in hand, letting the contempt wash over him. A shoe flies across the room and smacks him right in the head. Takayuki sits on a desk, mocking him for being so slow with his lunch. He treats Hinata like a dog, and the other students just watch or join in. Welcome to Class E, the trash class for students with low-performing relics and uncertain futures. Akane and Ira gossip from the desks about how unmotivated everyone is. Takayuki gets in Hinata's face, angry that he doesn't look broken. He activates his gauntlet, the mechanical plates shifting with a lethal click. A punch to the gut sends Hinata doubling over, gasping for air. Kuremura Takoyaki. His gauntlet relic is built for destruction, and Hinata is his favorite target. Hinata has spent the last 6 months at the very bottom, a permanent punching bag. The bowl-cut kid laughs, pointing out that Hinata's lunch is going to be ruined. Takayuki grinds his shoe into Hinata's back, crushing the bread into the floor. The girls in the back watch the show, tired of seeing the same routine. Akane explains that Takayuki's hatred is personal. He blames Hinata for his own placement in Class E. During a previous mock battle, Hinata's refusal to give up ruined Takayuki's evaluation. He didn't get to show off a flashy finish because Hinata just kept standing back up. Ira laughs at the idea of such pointless persistence in a losing battle. Takayuki hauls him up by the collar, demanding to know if he finally understands his place. But Hinata just smiles through the blood. Takayuki's face twists in confusion, realizing he's the one who's lost control. He delivers a brutal punch, the impact reverberating through the air. A digital counter flickers in Hinata's vision. 9,991 out of 10,000. It's almost time. The blows keep coming, each one more desperate than the last as a counter ticks up. Hinata is sent skidding across the floor, his body battered but his spirit unbroken. Takayuki stands over him, frustrated that he can't seem to beat the light out of his eyes. He demands to know why a weakling like Hinata still has such an arrogant look on its face. Takayuki sneers, mocking Hinata's parents and the trash relics they must have passed down. The insults turn venomous as he threatens to beat Hinata's whole family into the dust. He sticks his tongue out and gives a thumbs down, daring the boy to try and fight back. Hinata hangs his head, the weight of the years and the abuse finally getting to him. Even the bowl-cut student starts to feel the tension, asking Takayuki if that isn't enough for today. Takayuki snaps at his friend, his grip tightening on the boy's collar as his rage boils over. He asks if the kid is trying to protect the loser, his face twisting into a cruel grin. The bowl-cut student frantically denies it, terrified of becoming his next target. Takayuki laughs, telling him that if he really doesn't care, he should join in and hit him as well. He kicks a chair toward Hinata, a final act of petty humiliation. Suddenly, the counter hits its mark. 10,000 out of 10,000. A brilliant light erupts. Takayuki, oblivious to the change, walks away and orders his lackey to pick up the ruined bread. Hinata sits slumped against the wall, reflecting on the 10 years of effort that never seemed to pay off. He recalls the endless training sessions, the sweat, and the rain, all for a strength that never came. Then, a clear chime sounds from the relic of his hand. The system message appears. Upgrade condition met. Condition, take 10,000 damage. A new notification flashes. You can now upgrade beginner suit to unyielding suit. A terrifyingly wide grin spreads across his face, even though it's covered in blood. His eyes glow with a new dangerous light. If effort hasn't worked yet, he'll just keep trying until it does, because he simply doesn't know how to give up. This suit actually has a secret. Hinata realized it about 6 months ago, right after the class placement exams were over. He makes his way to the school's basement training portal, still stuck in that neon yellow suit. He can't stop thinking about how badly he failed the exams. If he doesn't find a way to get stronger, he's definitely getting expelled. That's just a harsh reality here at the Valkyrie Academy. Since the place is funded by the government, they have no mercy when it comes to kicking out students they think are useless. Brutal. Most of the people who enroll are like Hinata. They've got nothing if they lose the government support. He's one of those kids on the edge, so he's determined not to get dropped. He clenches his fist, knowing he needs to find a way to turn things around. Then, he remembers a key detail. Sacred relics actually have the potential to grow. Usually, the more a person uses a relic, the more powerful its traits become. Hinata looks at his tacky suit and wonders if it even has a special trait worth leveling up. He puts those doubts aside and steps through the training gates to see for himself. He's done living as a failure and is ready to push past his limits. But training is brutal. Before long, he's face down in the grass, completely exhausted. A goblin starts closing in on him, and he realizes he might actually die out here. He drags himself across the ground. Back before people had relics, even a single goblin was enough to give soldiers with guns a hard time. Fighting one barehanded feels impossible, but he forces himself to stand up. He needs to figure out how to actually deal damage while wearing this thing. The goblin doesn't stop, swinging its club with everything it's got. Hinata crosses his arms and prepares to take the hit. A system warning pops up, telling him that beginner suit wearers can't even equip weapons. He takes the full force of the blow, screaming that it will never give up. Surprisingly, the goblin goes down first. Hinata sits there, completely wiped out. He actually managed to win. The monster fades away, leaving a tiny glow on the ground. After all that struggle, he's only left with one small magic stone, but the moment he touches it, the stone vanishes right into his hand. He looks down in shock as the notification chimes in his head. The system confirms that the stone has been absorbed and the suit is finally responding. He just unlocked an expanded system screen and a brand new update function. From that point on, Hinata spent the next 6 months intentionally letting himself get beaten up. Back at the dorms, he decides it's finally time to see what all that pain was for. New notification confirms he's reached the 10,000 damage threshold needed for the update. He checks himself out in a mirror, holding up the holographic screen. The suit tells him he can activate the update using a voice command. He strikes a pose and shouts the keyword, "Update." A blinding light surges around him as the suit starts to glow and change shape. The light dies down, revealing the newly transformed indomitable suit. The changes look subtle at first, but Hinata wonders if his combat power has actually shifted. Suddenly, a full status screen pops up, showing his stats for strength and endurance. He stares at the data, realizing he's never seen anything like this. A description for the suit pops up, revealing it offers massive defense and a blessing of growth to whoever wears it. Hinata checks his stats and realizes his defense has spiked. He's definitely not the same punching bag he used to be. He clenches his fist, eager to test out exactly what this upgraded suit can really do. Meanwhile, deep in the training forest, Minase Shizuku is effortlessly carving through monsters with her ice blade. She sighs, complaining that these weak monsters aren't even useful for practice anymore. As she prepares to leave, she spots a familiar yellow figure wandering through the trees. One of her friends, a blonde student with a massive golden axe, notices her stop and asks what's wrong. Shizuku tries to dismiss it as nothing, but her friend keeps prying. The axe girl finally recognizes Hinata as that funny kid who became a viral joke after his disastrous placement exam. Shizuku isn't amused. She tells him to just drop out and become an entertainer if he wants attention so badly. She turns and walks away, clearly fed up with seeing him around. She mutters to herself about how he keeps giving her expectations, only to let her down every single time. The blonde student stays behind for a second, wondering why Shizuku is so bitter towards him. Back in the thick of it, Hinata successfully blocks a goblin's club, and of course, noting that his defense has significantly increased as expected. He's still taking damage, but the suit gives him the confidence to keep moving forward. He lands a heavy blow on the goblin, sending a shockwave through the creature, but he barely has time to celebrate before he hears a noise from behind. Suddenly, a goblin pounces, pinning him to the ground and beating him down. It raises its club, ready to smash his head in. Hinata curls into a ball, taking hit after hit. He realizes that just taking hits isn't going to win him any fights. He manages to scramble away, only to find himself surrounded by 5 more goblins. He panics, realizing they must have been lying in wait. He tries to escape, but the monsters are closing in fast. At this rate, he's going to get killed. Bleeding and exhausted, he falls to his knees, desperately wishing for help. A memory of his father flashes through his head, a reminder that he can't keep relying on others to save him. His father's voice echoes, telling him to get stronger and become a hero who can help people in their darkest moments. His eyes suddenly fill with determination. He refuses to give up here. A system message flickers. Even though he still can't use weapons, his suit is reacting to his willpower. Suddenly, a surge of energy erupts from him, crackling with lightning as a goblin's attack. He catches a goblin's arm mid-swing with ease. He charges forward, a blur of motion as he barrels straight into the pack. He's not thinking about whether he can win anymore. He just knows he has to. The system chimes in again. His spirit has resonated with the suit, granting him a new skill, revenge. He clenches his fist, feeling a massive power surge. I have to do this! The skill allows him to convert all the damage he's taken into strength for 10 seconds. Hinata is stunned. He finally has a real way to fight back. With no time to waste, he decides to bet everything on this one shot. He lets out a roar, activating the skill. Revenge! 8 seconds, he throws a devastating punch, sending the first goblin flying through the air. 6 seconds. He clears out the next few monsters with single hits, his strength now through the roof. 4 seconds. He slams the final goblin into the ground, ending the fight before the timer even runs out. With only 1 second left on the countdown, he puts everything into a final, lightning-charged punch. The force of the impact craters the ground, obliterating the last of the monsters in a burst of energy. The skill deactivates as the timer hits 0, leaving Hinata collapsed in the grass and gasping for air. A system notification details the specifics of the Revenge Effect skill. It converts accumulated damage into raw power for 10 seconds, but it can only be used once per day. He stares out the window, realizing that while the skill is a powerful trump card, it's far too risky to rely on it for every fight. He slowly pushes himself up, his muscles aching. He knows he needs to find a more sustainable way to grow stronger if he's going to keep facing these kind of threats. He looks down at his hands, sensing that the suit's recent transformation was only the beginning of its true potential. He picks up a glowing pink magic stone from the battlefield, and to his surprise, the suit begins to absorb its energy directly. A message flashes across his vision. The indomitable suit has processed its first magic stone, unlocking a hidden update list of future functions. As a long list of new proficiencies and stat boosts floods the screen, a determined grin spreads across his face. He finally has a clear path to becoming the hero he's always wanted to be. A week passes and we're back in the woods where a lone goblin is sniffing around for trouble. Suddenly, Hinata drops from the trees like a shadow. He nails the thing with a revenge strike and sends shockwaves through the forest. The hobgoblin is done for. Hinata stands over the smoking remains. He picks up a mana crystal, feeling pretty good about taking down a hobgoblin on his own. The system chimes in. Achievement cleared. First hobgoblin kill. This is a big break. He can finally start using weapons. The reward screen is stacked. Blunt weapons, swords, knuckles. He's getting proficient in everything. He checks his status. His durability is through the roof, which makes sense for a guy whose suit is designed to take hits. I mean, he already took 10,000. He pulls up the upgrade list to see what his next goals are. Most of his new skills are defensive, like impact resistance. His only real attack is still revenge, and that's a pain to pull off. He looks at the silhouette of his next suit evolution. He's still missing the trigger for it. He flops down on the grass to think, what's the secret? He thinks back to the first time when he got revenge. The upgrade list wasn't even open then. He wonders if it's in the mana crystal or if there's something more important. He remembers a system mentioning his unyielding spirit. That's definitely the key. The suit reacts to his sheer willpower. Cut to the hospital where Hinata's headed to check on his family. His younger sister, Hikari, is all smiles as soon as he walks in. He asks if it's okay to sit, and she's just happy to have the company. She's even flexing for him, determined to build up enough strength to finally get out of there. He just watches her, glad to see her doing so well. She asks if their mom looks any better today as well, but their mother is still in the deep 10-year sleep. It's crystal disease, a terminal condition caused by monster venom with no known cure. His sister caught it too, but their mom took most of the hit to protect her. Hikari's hopeful she can go home next year, but then she notices a visitor at the door. A man in a sharp suit walks into the room. Hikari recognizes him immediately. This is Kagura Ginji, and he greets her with the best friendly uncle face. He hands over a gift for her recovery, playing the part of the generous benefactor. But then, he puts a hand on Hinata's shoulder. He wants to step outside for a little talk. They head to the break room. Ginji gets a coffee and cuts right to the chase. He wants an answer. This man is Kagura Ginji, the guild master of Phoenix, the same guild Hinata's father used to belong to. He starts laying on the pressure, talking about how much money it takes to support a sick family. He knows the history Hinata's father had with the guild and isn't afraid to use it. He tells him he shouldn't hesitate if he really wants to save his mom. Hinata sees right through it. This guy's a shark pretending to be a saint. Crystals produced by the disease are worth a fortune. Humanity is always looking for new energy sources, and Ginji wants to turn people into endless mana generators. In the shadows, a dark truth emerges. Patients with rare disease are traded like commodities on the black market. Hinata realizes Ginji's true intent, which is to use his mother as a lab rat, and he's not having any of it. Ginji doesn't skip a beat, reminding him that the money his father left behind is quickly drying out. He twists the knife, asking how much longer a kid like him can afford these mounting hospital bills. With a smug grin, he points out that a low-ranked hunter will never earn enough to save his family. But Hinata doesn't flinch, vowing that he'll protect his family no matter what the cost. He holds onto that final promise he made to his father, a weight that keeps him standing. Ginji plays the nice guy role, telling Hinata to keep this conversation from his sister so she doesn't end up hating him. He tells Hinata to reach out if he changes his mind. Then, he heads for the vending machine like he didn't just try to buy a human being. Ginji leaves with a dismissive grunt, leaving Hinata alone in the cold hallway. Stepping back into the hospital room, Hinata knows he has to take his father's place as a protector. When his sister asks what they talked about, he just gives her a secret and a smile to keep her from worrying. He knows what he has to do, join a top-tier guild and get strong enough to pay for everything. He looks at his mother's silent form, the stakes of his journey laying right in front of him. The resolve in his eyes is clear. He has to get stronger and he has to do it now. Back at school, he checks the time. The portal is still open, and he can't afford to waste a second. He pushes himself to keep moving when a sudden scream from a nearby alley cuts through the air. He spots a girl being cornered by a group of guys who are trying to pay for her company. He He recognizes her. It's Akane from his class, and she's clearly not interested in their money. At first, he thinks about walking away, telling himself it's not his problem, but the bullies from Class C aren't taking no for an answer, insisting that their seniors are waiting for her. They start throwing accusations, asking if she hasn't done this kind of thing before. Akane tries to stay calm and says it's all a misunderstanding, but the guy in the orange beanie isn't listening. He gets right up in her personal space, threatening to spread rumors that would ruin her reputation at school. He tells her she's just a senior's type and that she could make some easy cash with that figure of hers. The bully is mid-smirk when he gets a face full of attitude. Akane isn't the type to be pushed around. She gives him the finger and tells him exactly where to go. The girls in the back find the whole thing hilarious, calling her intense while the bully's face turns red. He loses his cool and grabs her by the collar, demanding she just do what she's told. She fights back, screaming for him to keep his hands off of her. He lunges for her again, but this time he's stopped dead in his tracks. A hand clamps down on his arm with grip like iron. Akane looks up in shock to see Hinata standing right there. The bully is more confused than anything, wondering who this random wimp is. The girls in the back room recognize him instantly as a cosplay hunter from the weakest class. The beanie bully finally puts it together. This is the kid who made a fool of himself during the broadcast test. He tells Hinata to mind his own business and step aside so they can finish up with Akane, but Hinata doesn't move an inch, putting himself directly between her and the bullies. Enraged, the Class C student throws a heavy punch, calling him a bug that needs to get squashed. Akane shouts a warning, telling him he's picking a fight with the wrong crowd, but Hinata just stands his ground and catches the fist with ease. Without breaking a sweat, he slams the bully down, proving he's far from the weakling they remember. Before the guy can even process what happened, Hinata delivers a sharp, decisive strike that leaves him gasping for air on the ground. Akane can only watch in absolute disbelief. The weakling everyone mocks is suddenly a force to be reckoned with. With the threat neutralized, Hinata stands calm amidst the silence, his quiet strength speaking much louder than any insult ever could. Inside the gym, the Academy Kickboxing Club is now in full swing as students work up a sweat. The instructor's voice echoes through the room, barking orders to keep the intensity high during training. Minase Shizuku, a student with light blue hair, catches her breath while maintaining a sharp fighting stance in the ring. She lunges forward with a precise punch, keeping her sparring partner on the defensive. Takahashi tries to find an opening, but Shizuku is already preparing her next move. With a sudden burst of speed, she catches him off guard, her kick narrowly missing his head as he flinches. The round ends and a sweating Takahashi admits he's completely outclassed by her skill. Shizuku gives a respectful bow, thanking her senior for the practice session. Takahashi notes that while her sacred artifact is top tier, her pure martial arts are what truly set her apart. Wiping off the sweat, Shizuku downplays her praise, saying she just focuses on what she can control. She mentions martial arts are all that she has to boast about before heading for the lockers. Elsewhere, Aira watches Hinata, worried that he's still too weak to stand up to the school's bullies. In a quiet alleyway, Hinata is cornered by a group of thugs, but he doesn't seem intimidated at all. One guy charges in, only for Hinata to grab him and slam him into the pavement with brutal efficiency. Another one jumps in, but Hinata quickly puts him in a chokehold, shutting down the attack instantly. Aira is stunned, realizing that Hinata has been hiding this level of strength all along. Standing over the fallen bullies, he calmly asks if anyone else wants to keep going. Hagane, the leader in the orange beanie, steps forward and activates a massive mechanical gauntlet. He unleashes a powerful blast from the weapon, determined to crush the kid who just embarrassed his crew. The blast tears through the alley, but Hinata has already vanished from his original spot. He slides across the ground, his eyes locked on his opponent as he prepares his next move. Hagane is left reeling, staring at his smoking gauntlet in disbelief that he actually missed. Hinata stands calmly, his hand showing the faint glow of his own artifact as he stares back. Panicked by the attention and the threat of police, Hagane realizes he's in deep trouble. Some girls nearby shout for him to run before he gets caught with an illegal weapon. Cursing his luck, he just turns and flees like a coward, swearing he'll get revenge for this humiliation. Aira rushes over to Hinata, checking to see if he's hurt after taking such a close hit. He just shrugs it off with his nonchalantness, saying that he didn't even leave a scratch on him. He turns to leave, but she stops him, wondering why he'd risk a fight in the middle of town. He doesn't feel like explaining himself, telling her he'd rather she didn't ask about it. He knows everyone has secrets they'd rather keep buried, and he's no different. Aira looks down, admitting she's never really been there for him and feels bad about it. Hinata notices the flower she's holding and asks about the bouquet to change the subject. He asks if she's visiting somebody at the hospital, suggesting she should get going before it's too late. As he walks away, Ira watches him go. Her perception of him has completely shattered. She thinks to herself that he's actually a decent person, despite what everyone says. The next day at school, students fill the hallways as they head to their morning classes. Hinata is walking through the corridor when a hand suddenly waves in front of his face. Ira pops out with a bright smile out of nowhere, greeting him cheerfully as if nothing unusual happened yesterday. She wanted to thank him for saving her, but then he gets a sudden sinking feeling that someone else is watching. Out of nowhere, a heavy blow catches him from behind, nearly sending him tumbling to the floor. It's Hagane and his group of thugs, strolling into view with smug looks on their faces as they corner him. Hagane flashes a cold grin, brandishing a mechanical gauntlet on his arm and reminding Hinata that there's no escape now that they're in school. Nearby, Ira and her friend Akane watch the scene unfold, with Akane wondering what Hinata did to end up on the gang's bad side. Ira tries to intervene, but Akane just brushes her off, telling her to like the video and to stay out of business that doesn't concern her. He focuses his attention back on Hinata, gloating that while they were interrupted yesterday, school rules won't save him now. Akane looks down at him with pure contempt, mocking Hinata for being just as pathetic as the other E-class students. With a sudden surge of anger, Hagane strikes again, determined to prove that Hinata is nothing but trash compared to him. The mechanical gauntlet lets out a powerful shock as it connects, showing off its destructive capabilities as a sacred artifact. With a malicious grin, Hagane promises to keep tormenting him every single day until their graduation. But just as he's about to land another blow, he's caught off guard by a sudden change in the atmosphere. Ira points out the obvious. Liking the video makes you cooler than everyone else. She brags about how her artifact completely outclasses his air-compressing gauntlet. Unwilling to back down, Hagane slams Hinata into the wall with a final brutal shove. The force of the blow sends him reeling, nearly knocking the wind out of him as he hits the floor. He slides back across the hallway, the sound of the impact echoing through the silent corridor. Ira screams at him to stop, but Hagane just laughs it off, claiming he's only giving the kid a plausible excuse for his bruises. He faces the girls with a smug confidence, convinced that no one can actually stop him. But as Hinata struggles to sit up, he realizes something impossible. These hits, they don't actually hurt me. He looks at his trembling hand, remembering the strange awakening from the day before and wondering how he's so durable without his suit. He starts to suspect that it's not the artifact that's been evolving. Actually, it's been his physical body. Hagane pauses, confused as to why the boy he just pummeled is still looking at him with a sharp gaze. He thinks back to the status window he saw, focusing on the one skill that he's been waiting for this exact moment. Revenge. A blue aura of energy suddenly erupts around him as he lunges forward, declaring that he's no longer the weakest in the school. Hinata lands a heavy blow right on Hagane's giant gold gauntlet. The impact sends a shockwave through the hallway as the other students watch in shock. He goes flying back, his massive relic unable to stop the momentum. Takayuki and the rest of the group can't believe their eyes as the dust settles. The orange beanie bully is completely baffled. That gold hand is supposed to be unstoppable. He stares at Hinata, wondering how a guy like him is still standing after taking a hit from a sacred artifact. He drones on the floor, clutching his arm while his buddy checks on him. The gauntlet user tries to play it off, acting like he was just caught off guard and isn't actually hurt. The beanie bully convinces himself that the artifact only failed because the attack didn't land right. Hinata realizes the revenge effect of his suit was weak this time because he barely took any damage. He looks down, frustrated that he doesn't have another finishing move ready to go. He clenches his fists, tired of always being the one on the receiving end of these fights. A teacher suddenly breaks up the commotion, demanding to know what they're doing so early in the morning. The beanie bully calls it quits, deciding it's not worth the trouble right now. Ira and another girl watch them walk away, sensing the tension hasn't really left. Takayuki laughs it off, claiming he only stepped in to keep things interesting. The bowl-cut classmate watches Takayuki, thinking that Hinata's display was on another level. He notices Hinata doesn't have a single scratch on him, even after facing against a Class C relic user. Lunchtime rolls around, but Hinata is busy with his own thoughts as students head out. He sits alone, staring at the holographic display of his beginner suit. He realizes the relic isn't just about the suit, it's actually making his own physical body stronger. Looking at his stats, he wonders why he can use these abilities even when he's not transformed. He decides it's a good failsafe for surprise attacks, even if he plans on wearing the suit for the most time anyway. He knows he still has a major problem. His offensive power is seriously lacking. He starts thinking about how to reach the next level and unlock some actual finishing moves. Takayuki interrupts his thoughts, teasing him for hiding out in the bathroom. This red-haired delinquent just slaps a hand on his shoulder, acting like they're best buds now. Takayuki shows off his own glowing gauntlet relic, bragging about how cool it is. He throws a quick punch at Hinata's gut to test him, but our boy doesn't even flinch. He tells Hinata that he's ruined his mood and demands he go buy him some food as an apology. The bowl cut kid watches from behind, noticing that Takayuki's hit didn't seem to hurt him at all. He's convinced Hinata is hiding some sort of massive secret about his real strength. Our boy just gives him a flat look, thinking about how his revenge skill is on cooldown for the day. He clenches his fist, wondering if he could take Takayuki down right now without any powers.
Before things can escalate, Ira walks up and says she needs to talk to Hinata alone. Takayuki gets annoyed, reminding her that he was the one who helped Hinata out this morning. He starts mocking Ira, asking if she suddenly decided to become Hinata's bodyguard. She doesn't back down, raising her voice and insisting that she has business with him. She calls Takayuki pathetic for trying to act tough against a girl. Takayuki scoffs and tells Hinata he's leaving, while the bowl cut kid just tries to keep up. Hinata turns to Ira, asking if she's okay after that confrontation. She tells him to deal with Takayuki on his own next time, acting like she didn't just step in to help him. Ira apologizes to Hinata, feeling guilty that he got targeted because of her. Hinata tells her she doesn't need to apologize, since he chose to get involved on his own. Ira gives him a small, relieved smile, thankful for his kind words. They look out over the school railing as Ira shares memories of her father. She explains that he was a frontline warrior who fell while fighting monsters when she was little. Ever since that day, her father has been bedridden and unable to move. With her family's situation worsening, Ira's mother started bringing home different men every day to try and earn money. Her mother began to change, eventually falling into a shady cult and demanding money from her own daughter. The family dynamic completely crumbled under the pressure of the debt and the mother's obsession. Ira admits she came to the school primarily as a way to escape that toxic home life. She dreams of becoming a great warrior like her dad, but her Class E rank makes the future look bleak. That's why the Class C bullies approached her, offering money in exchange for her cooperation. She rejected them, but they've been persistent ever since, which is why she's coming clean to Hinata. Ira wonders if it was too much to dump all this on him, but she wanted to make sure he didn't misunderstand. She gives a bright smile, trusting that Hinata isn't the type of person to go around gossiping. As they prepare to head back, Ira notes that the bullies have been suspiciously quiet today. She playfully tells him to stay alert, warning him not to mistake her for some fragile girl. Before running off, she tells him to call her Ira, instead of just you. Meanwhile, Takayuki is still fuming about their fight getting interrupted earlier that morning. He decides they need to put Hinata in his place before he gets any more cocky. Takayuki suggests jumping him in the bathroom so they won't be interrupted by teachers again. The bowl cut student looks out the window and spots Kaori with the Class C bullies. He wonders why Kaori is hanging out with Akane's group after everything that's happened. He quickly makes an excuse about forgetting his wallet to get away from Takayuki. Takayuki is annoyed by his lackey's sudden departure, but he doesn't stop him. Kaori is seen meeting with the bullies in a secluded area of the school grounds. The bowl cut kid hides behind a pillar, worried that Kaori might be in some kind of danger. One of the bullies is frustrated that his plan didn't work despite the setup he made. Akane snaps at him, reminding him how many angry calls she's been getting from their senior. The beanie bully complains that Akane keeps refusing to cooperate with their demands. The spying student is confused, wondering why Akane is involved with these guys. He remembers hearing rumors that Akane almost got sold off to a bar before escaping to this school. He questions why a girl in Class E would choose to go back to her old, dangerous life. Akane claims she's just trying to help by introducing people to someone who can solve their money problems. Her lackey looks completely lost, clearly not understanding her true intentions. Akane gives a devious grin, saying that Akane, her other target, will probably appreciate the help. She reveals her sacred artifact, a glowing purple orb that can make people more obedient. She claims her power can even make her victims feel good while she controls them. The bully looks completely dazed as the artifact's influence takes hold of his mind. Akane tells him to stop using his powers on allies and focus on the mission at hand. She notes that while some monsters are immune to her brainwashing, humans are much easier to manipulate. The beanie bully asks if she's ready to use her full power, and she just gives a cold, confident smile. One of the Class C bullies questions Akane's ability to summon their targets correctly after her previous failure, but she confidently dismisses his doubts. Senior Sion sits in the shadows, his presence a dark reminder of his reputation for ruining lives without a shred of remorse. Akane signals for her lackeys to disperse, ordering them to gather at their designated meeting spot after school the following day. Hidden just around the corner, the bowl cut classmate is left trembling after overhearing the group's dangerous conversation. He grips his head in a panic, realizing he is far too weak to stop the Class C thugs on his own, especially if their senior gets involved. He considers seeking help from Takayuki, but he knows the hot-headed student wouldn't be able to handle such a dangerous situation. Flashbacks of Hagane's devastating gauntlet attack fill his mind, emphasizing the sheer power gap between the elite classes and everyone else. Despite his fears, his thoughts keep returning to Hinata, the one person who has already proven he can stand up to bullies. Watching Hinata look out toward the horizon, the student wonders if the boy from Class E is his only hope of stopping Akane's scheme. Aira sits alone in the quiet classroom, watching the late afternoon sun cast long shadows across the empty desks. She looks down with a serious expression, her mind drifting back to a childhood memory of her father. In the flashback, a young Aira talks to her dad, calling him a super strong hero while her mom prepares dinner in the background. Her father smiles, explaining that while real heroes fight without thinking of themselves, he's just a regular guy. He tells her that simply being able to protect his family is more than enough for him. Patting her head, he tells her to remember that having strong convictions is what truly makes someone powerful. The peaceful memory is shattered as Aira's father is rushed into emergency on a stretcher, gasping for his life. Aira and her mother stand by his hospital bed, listening as the doctor delivers the grim news about his condition. Years pass, and Aira stands alone outside the hospital room, watching her father through the window in her middle school uniform. She brings flowers to the ward, finding her mother leaning against the wall looking completely drained and bitter. Her mother lights a cigarette and asks if he still hasn't woken up, her face filled with a cold exhaustion. Suddenly, she snaps, shouting that they can't even keep their lives together and that the bills are becoming impossible to handle. She tells Aira that the hospital costs are too high and that she'll have to start working as soon as she finishes middle school. Putting out her cigarette, she tells the young girl that her future is already decided, but Aira clenches her fist in silence. In her heart, Aira knows there's a way to save him, even if it sounds like a legend. She learns of the glow basilisk, a creature whose heart is a miracle cure, but it's so rare that no one is selling it. Realizing she'll have to get it herself, she looks at her father one last time before making a life-changing choice. She sets her sights on the Valkyria National Academy, the only place that can give her the strength she needs. Back in the present, Aira grips the academy guide with the same determination that brought her here in the first place. She stares out the window, reflecting on the weight of the promise she made to herself and her father. But after being placed in the low-tier Class E, she's starting to wonder if she's really cut out for this. She watches Asahi Hinata, wondering if she could ever become like him if she just pushes her limits. Walking through the hallways, she spots someone and enters a room, only to find the last person she expected to see. Behind the door, a shadowy figure stands alone, clutching a swirling orb of purple energy. This is Akane, who watches from the shadows with a predatory smile, her red eyes gleaming with dark intent. Meanwhile, Asahi walks down the hall, completely unaware that Takayuki is nervously watching him from around the corner. Takayuki hesitates, sweating as he debates whether he should even bother speaking up. He tries to talk himself out of it, thinking that whatever's happening has nothing to do with him anyway. Asahi suddenly stops and turns back, having sensed Takayuki's presence, and asks if he needs something. Caught off guard, Takayuki fumbles for an excuse, his nerves getting the better of him. With a bandage over his eye, Takayuki realizes this might be his only chance to actually say what's on his mind. He looks down at his clenched fist, feeling ashamed for asking for help after everything he's put Asahi through. Asahi doesn't wait around for an answer, telling him he's heading out if there's nothing else to talk about. Takayuki watches him go, his guilt weighing heavy as Aira and another student walk past in the distance. Aira stops for a moment, looking back with a suspicious expression as if she can sense the tension in the air. Takayuki grits his teeth, his inner conflict reaching a breaking point. He finally makes a decision and takes off running, heading for the warehouse district. Inside a dim, cluttered warehouse, a group of students is gathered in the shadows. Senior Seon sits arrogantly with his arm around Kaori, asking his crew if they're sure about the plan for today. They reassure him, promising that there won't be any screw-ups like the other day. They mention that having Kaori on their side ensures that everything will go smoothly. Senior Seon lights a cigarette and smirks, noting that thanks to their connection, the profits have been looking pretty nice. Akane stands in the middle of the warehouse, sporting a sweet smile as she thanks Senior Seon and Kaori for their trust. She looks over at Seon, who's chilling on some crates, and he asks if she really planned on not using that artifact of hers. She just smirks and admits that while it wasn't her original plan, things didn't exactly line up with what she had in mind. Kaori isn't impressed, looking Aira up and down and complaining that she looks way too young for their business. Senior Seon agrees, saying that even if she is cute, her age makes things a bit complicated. He grabs Aira by the chin, his expression turning dark as he talks about having some fun before passing her off to the rest of the crew. Akane puts a hand on Aira's shoulder, acting like she's checking on her, and brings up the fact that Aira is only doing this for the money. Aira looks completely hollowed out, her mind stuck on the fact that she needs that money to save her father. Seon mocks her for being shy, while Akane laughs it off, ignoring the look of pure terror on Aira's face as she stares at the glowing purple orb. Suddenly, Akane's mood shifts. She senses they're being watched and tells the group that they've got a tail. Hiding behind a stack of crates, Takayuki is frozen in place, realizing he's just been caught red-handed. Akane turns toward his hiding spot with a nasty grin, calling out to him as she prepares to deal with the intruder. She pulls out her artifact, and Senior Seon asks if it's actually someone she knows. She walks right up to the terrified Takayuki, telling him there's no need to run and bringing up his supposed interest in joining them. As she holds up the purple orb, a reflection of the panicked boys trapped within the swirling energy. Within seconds, Takayuki's eyes go blank, and his will is completely overwritten by the artifact's power. Seon watches the whole thing and tells Akane to make the kid an accomplice so they don't have to worry about him snitching later. Akane agrees with a giggle, giving the brainwashed Takayuki a twisted order to help her with Aira. Completely under her spell, Takayuki picks up a camera with a creepy smile, ready to record whatever happens next. He reaches for Aira's clothes, his mind screaming for help while his body moves on its own, forced to obey. He reflects on how his own cowardice always leads him here, thinking about how his half-hearted sense of justice is useless. A quick flashback of him being beaten up shows why he's given up. He's always ended up on the side of the villains anyway. As he's forced to go along with Akane's sick game, he tells himself it's easier to just not resist and say he had no choice. Just as things are about to hit rock bottom, a sudden blur of motion enters the room, and Aira looks up in shock. A massive kick lands right on Takayuki's jaw, sending him and his camera spinning through the air. Asahi Hinata has officially arrived, standing between Aira and the bullies, while Takayuki hits the ground hard. Akane's confident smile is gone, replaced by a nervous sweat as she realizes the protagonist has finally found them. Aira's lips tremble as she whispers Hinata's name, feeling a surge of hope for the first time. Hinata stares down the group with a look of pure, icy rage, his presence alone making the bullies realize they're in deep trouble. Akane holds a glowing purple orb, staring at Hinata with a cold, judging look. Hinata stands his ground while Aira watches from behind, her face full of concern for him. On the floor, the unknown classmate, Bullcut, is slumped over and clearly beaten. Senior Seon eyes Hinata with complete indifference, asking Akane who the guy even is. She just laughs him off, calling Hinata the weakest loser from her class. The group gathers around, looking down on the two Class E students like they're nothing. Senior Seon admits he's a bit curious about why Hinata showed up, but he's not exactly impressed. Akane lets a twisted smile slip as her orb hums with energy. She asks Hinata if he's here because he wants to join their little crew. Hinata looks down, his eyes shadowed and unreadable as he prepares to speak. He asks Akane point blank if she and the boy on the ground were actually friends. Akane is caught off guard, clearly not expecting that kind of question. Hinata keeps pushing, asking if she even knows about the family issues the poor guy is dealing with. Akane just scoffs, saying she knows him better than anyone. She even brags that she's the one who got him this job in the first place. Hinata stares at the floor for a second before telling her to just forget it. It's clear he's seen enough. The unknown classmate, Bull, points a finger at Akane, shouting about how she was the one who tricked him with that relic. Akane looks visibly annoyed, realizing that a good smack must have brought the kid back to his senses. The purple smoke from her orb swirls around her, reflecting the frustration in her eyes. She's starting to see Hinata as a real problem. Hinata turns to his classmate and bluntly tells him that nobody asked him to come here. He realizes that the guy was probably planning to beg for help or ask for something from the bullies. The bowl-cut guy looks absolutely devastated, his glasses slipping as he trembles on the ground. The beanie bully steps forward, laughing at Hinata for trying to play the hero. He tells him he's already used up his luck, escaping them twice before. He warns Hinata that there won't be a third chance, as he levels a large cannon-like gauntlet at him. The bully fires a shot, but Hinata just casually blocks the heavy blow with his bare forearm. The beanie bully freezes, completely stunned that his attack didn't even leave a scratch. He tries to play it off as a lucky block, but Senior Seon isn't buying it. He knows that wasn't just luck. Senior Seon narrows his eyes, wondering what kind of weird relic Hinata is hiding. He thought the kid didn't have any abilities at all. The blonde senior stares intensely, convinced that Hinata is keeping a major secret. Akane is getting desperate. She can't understand why her own relic isn't having any effect on him. She clenches her teeth, certain that no matter how strong he is, her power should eventually kick in. A status window pops up, revealing Hinata's willpower boost skill. It's providing him with a level of mental resistance they haven't seen before. The beanie bully doesn't wait around, and summons a massive golden fist to crush Hinata into the pavement. The bully grumbles, annoyed that Hinata managed to see the attack coming and move out of the way. Hinata looks down, his expression hardening as he asks them why they're even doing this. He clenches his fist, telling them that a holy relic was never meant to be used as a tool to hurt people. He continues his speech, saying relics exist to protect everyone from the monsters that cross over from other realms. The whole group just bursts out laughing at his idealism. They think he's being incredibly naive. Senior Seon wipes a tear from his eye, mocking Hinata for not understanding how the real world actually works. A flashback shows the harsh reality where only a select few can make it into the big guilds. Most people with relics can't even afford to eat. Senior Seon argues that if you have a relic, It would be a complete waste not to use it to make some easy money. Hinata starts to glow with a strange golden aura, his energy beginning to surge as he listens to their excuses. Aira watches the tension build, her eyes filled with worry for what's about to happen. Hinata asks if it's really okay to prey on people who are just trying to build a better future. A close-up shows a wide, sinister grin. The answer is obvious to them. Senior Sion shrugs, saying he doesn't care who gets sacrificed as long as it's not him. He asks Hinata if he really thinks he's the only one in the world who thinks like this. He leans in and tells Hinata they'd happily sell out their own friends if the price was right. Aira's eyes well up with tears as she hears their heartless logic. Senior Seon just calls it a wise decision. The blonde senior rants that working yourself to the bone with no guarantee of success is something only a total fool would do. Hinata grits his teeth, his expression twisting into pure frustration at the sight of his friends being treated this way. He charges straight for Senior Seon, ready to put an end to the senior's arrogance. But Senior Seon easily catches the punch, his golden armored hand clamping down on Hinata's fist like a vice. Hinata's eyes widen in shock. He's completely stuck. The senior just smiles and calls it too bad, his confidence unshaken. He thought Hinata might actually have some skill, but now he's just disappointed. Senior Seon looks down at him with a bored expression, asking if this tiny bit of strength is really all he's got. Hinata can only watch as the others look on, paralyzed by Senior Seon's dominance. The senior tells him he's about to find out exactly why he's always being treated like prey. The group laughs, telling him it's simply because he's weak. In their eyes, strength is the only thing that justifies existence. Hinata gets slammed into the ground, his struggle seemingly useless against the senior's overwhelming force. The news anchor on a screen nearby continues his report, while Hinata seethes, asking just how much bullying is enough to satisfy them. He thinks about how many people are in a situation just like him, or Akane, trapped under the heels of guys like this. The thought that they think they can just use people because they're weak makes his blood boil. Hinata roars, telling them not to make him laugh with their twisted logic. He's done being the victim. Suddenly, a system message flashes before his eyes. His escalating rage has triggered a reaction from his suit. A forced update is being initiated. Hinata grabs the senior's armored arm, his grip becoming incredibly strong as a red light begins to pulse from his body. The beanie bully is sent flying backward, coughing as he crashes into a brick wall. The tide is turning fast. Senior Seon and the others can only stare in horror at the change in Hinata's aura. Hinata asks them again if being weak is really such a bad thing. Hinata vows to turn their own logic back on them. If strength is everything, he'll show them what real strength looks like. A final screen reveals the new power of his holy relic, the Suit of Rage. It grants the user increased strength fueled by their own anger. Now fully transformed into a sleek red armored suit, Hinata stands tall. He declares that he'll become strong enough to make sure people like them disappear forever. Asahi Hinata stands in a glowing red suit, looking like a completely different person. Senior Sion and Takayuki can only stare in disbelief at the sudden transformation. Takayuki is losing it. He can't wrap his head around how the suit just completely changed like that. Even Seon is starting to question reality, wondering if this is what a real holy relic is supposed to look like. Meanwhile, Akane just watches with her orb in hand. Aira is caught in the middle of the chaos, looking completely overwhelmed by what's happening to her friend. Hinata doesn't waste any time. He steps in and launches a heavy punch straight at Seon. The blow lands clean on Seon's jaw, sending a shockwave through the air as he grunts in pain. Seon recoils, his eyes wide with shock. He didn't expect the loser to actually have this kind of power. He tries to fire back with a kick, but Hinata just tanks it like it's nothing. Aira calls out to Seon, but he's too busy trying to figure out how to deal with the monster standing in front of him. Hinata just stands there, aura flaring. Seon is panicking. He can't believe Hinata is actually getting stronger the more he's pushed. Seon stops playing around and activates his own relic, a glowing blue symbol appearing on the back of his hand. He warns Hinata not to get too cocky before grabbing a water bottle to fuel his power. He pours the water right over his wrist, reminding everyone that he used to be a Class B student for a reason. The water starts swirling around his arm, forming into a weapon. He mocks Hinata, claiming their innate abilities are just on a different level. Hinata jumps back into the fray, blocking a series of rapid-fire strikes as sparks fly from the impact. Seon clicks his tongue in frustration. In any normal fight, his opponent's hand would have shattered by now. He watches Hinata's every move, baffled by how much faster and more fluid he's become. But he still thinks he has the edge. He smirks, telling Hinata that he's still lacking the experience to win a real fight. That's when he springs the trap. Rings of water suddenly materialize and tighten around Hinata, pinning his arms to his sides. Seon gloats about how dangerous binding abilities can be in a fight like this. He laughs in Hinata's face, telling him he should have seen a move like that coming. Hinata grits his teeth as the water rings crush him like a heavy metal block. Seon keeps the pressure on, pouring more water to keep his relic active, and the binding strong. He declares that his relic is perfect for taking down other people, telling Hinata he picked the wrong guy to mess with. He gathers the water into a massive, spinning drill and aims it right at Hinata's head. He launches the blast point blank, and Hinata is helpless to do anything but take the hit. Sion stares him down, asking if he's finally realized who's in charge here. But then Ira steps up, aiming a massive Gatling gun and calling him a fool for thinking it was over. She quickly snaps Takayuki out of his trance with a slap, apologizing for having to do it. Akane watches the scene unfold, looking completely unimpressed by the rescue attempt. She decides to step in, her purple orb glowing as she prepares to launch an attack of her own. Eira realizes too late that she's the target as the orb flies toward her. She looks at Akane in shock, unable to believe her classmate is turning on her. Akane just gives her a cold, greedy smile. For her, this is just a way to make some quick money. Ira is absolutely stunned by the betrayal. Akane doesn't care. She just stares her down, ready to finish the job. She laughs as she calls Ira's relic worthless trash, telling her she should actually be thanking her. She tightens her grip, and the power in the orb surges. The blast hits Ira full force, sending her flying backward as she screams. The beanie bully joins in, his arm cannon smoking after he fires a follow-up shot. Meanwhile, Hinata is still stuck, hanging in the air and completely immobilized by the water rings. Seon looks at the carnage and simply declares that the fight is over. Senior Seon looms over the fallen Hinata, smugly promising to brainwash him properly once this is all over. He glances back at Kaori, noting that things would have been a lot messier if she hadn't stepped in. Nearby, Ira is curled up on the ground, trembling as the weight of the defeat sinks in. She's drowning in frustration, listening to their insults and starting to believe she really is as worthless as they say. But the tears don't stop her. A spark of pure defiance lights up behind her eyes. She grits her teeth and makes a vow right then and there she's going to work harder and become stronger than any of them. She forces herself up, dragging her heavy Gatling gun along with her. Without a second thought, she levels the weapon at their captors and pulls the trigger. A massive blast erupts from the barrel, catching Senior Sion completely off guard and sending him reeling. Hinata watches her, the water binding still clinging to his red suit, as he sees his friend finally find her resolve. Ira looks over at him, her eyes filled with tears but also a desperate kind of hope as she asks if she can really count on him. Hinata turns his back to her, his red aura beginning to pulse with a new intensity as he tells her to just leave the rest to him. Senior Seon just scoffs, thinking he's still in control and claiming it'll be a joke to just tie Hinata up again. More water rings whip through the air, coiling around Hinata's body to pin him down. But Hinata isn't flinching, he's only focused on one thing: revenge. He lets out a surge of energy, his red suit flaring like a bonfire as he prepares to break free. Seon's smug expression starts to crumble into confusion as he realizes something is very wrong. Hinata doesn't hold back, calling Seon out for all that talk about Class E being nothing more than trash. The water bindings shatter into pieces, leaving Seon scrambling to understand how his relic just failed so miserably. Hinata steps forward, his movement so fast it creates a shockwave that tears up the floor beneath him. Seon looks down at his feet in a panic, wondering why his powers aren't working anymore. He's trapped now, staring up at Hinata, who looms over him like a literal nightmare. Hinata's fist begins to glow with a blinding red heat as he promises to show Seon exactly what the power of trash looks like. Seon completely loses his cool, screaming for Hinata to stop as the realization of what's coming finally hits him. It's too late. Hinata brings his fist down with the force of a falling building, burying Seon into the dirt. Hinata puts a definitive end to the fight, slamming Hagane face first into the dirt with a single, crushing blow. One look at Hinata's face, and the bully realizes he's completely outmatched. His friends call out to him, but the fight's already over. He stands over the guy who's been making his life hell, barely breaking a sweat. One of Hagane's lackeys tries to act tough, telling Hinata to quit messing around. He aims his weapon, thinking he's got the upper hand now that the boss is down. Big mistake. Hinata closes the distance before the guy can even blink. The lackey freezes, realizing this wasn't just some lucky shot. Hinata grabs him by the collar, pulling him in close. He lifts him off the ground with one hand, showing him exactly where they stand. He's done being the school's punching bag. He's got better things to do than deal with trash. The guy immediately starts begging, all that bravado vanishing in an instant. Hinata walks away, leaving the bullies groveling in the dust where they belong. Ira watches him, seeing a side of him she never expected. Somewhere else, a man reminds a young girl that true power comes from resolve. Back at the academy, Hinata and Ira share a moment of victory as the exam wraps up. Instructor Elena watches the footage, calling the outcome completely unexpected. High up in the office, Director Kim sits in silence, processing what he just saw. He watches the screen, noting that students who cross the line don't have a place in his school. Apparently, their investigation into the school's troublemakers turned up more than they bargained for. He's already looking forward to seeing what Hinata does in the next evaluation. The sun rises over Valkyria Academy the next day, but the atmosphere has shifted. A crowd of students gathers around the main bulletin board, whispering in shock. There it is, in black and white, a formal expulsion notice for Hagane's crew. No one knows who reported them, but most are just glad they're finally gone. Aira and Takayuki discuss the news, noting that those guys always had a terrible reputation. Another student wonders what all the noise is about, but most people are just keeping their heads down. He shrugs it off as lame and heads for the cafeteria. Takayuki suggests that Hinata probably had his own reasons for keeping his cool. Even when Aira tried to thank him yesterday, he just played it off and walked away. She isn't letting him get away that easily though, and follows him down the hall. Hinata stops and asks why she's trailing him like a lost puppy. She holds up her lunch and declares that lonely people should stick together. They end up sharing a bench outside, finding a rare moment of peace. She asks about his relic, curious if it's the kind that adds special traits. Hinata takes a bite of his food, wondering himself if he always had this ability. Aira thinks maybe it was a trait he always possessed, but was just too weak to notice. He disagrees, thinking back to how the update list refreshed the moment his new suit unlocked. His status screen confirms it. His strength and athleticism have jumped, and he's gained a new skill called Rage Fist. It seems his suit updates are triggered by his own emotions, evolving along with him. He clenches his fist, knowing that this is just the beginning of how strong he can get. Aira isn't worried about the stats, though she's just happy they're finally getting a chance to eat. Aira looks Hinata in the eye and makes a serious request she wants him to let her train with him. She knows she can't catch up to his level overnight, but she's determined to never be weaker than someone like Hagane again. Hinata just sits back, giving her a simple nod and acknowledging that he's seen how hard she's been trying. He explains that relics are just tools. Physical abilities only improve based on a person's own proficiency and effort. The fact that she walked away from that monster's attack with only minor injuries is all the proof he needs of her hard work. Hearing him say that catches her off guard, and she can't help but blush at the unexpected praise. She snaps out of it quickly, pumping herself up and declaring that she still has a long way to go. She reaches out her hand, promising him that she's going to keep pushing herself to get even stronger. With a huge smile, she thanks him for everything he did for her during the exam yesterday. Hinata takes her hand, sealing the deal with a firm handshake. From across the courtyard, Minase Shizuku watches them with a cold gaze, annoyed by how happy the weaklings look. She turns back to a blonde student nearby, asking if she's given any more thought to joining her group for the reevaluation. Shizuku tries to play it up, saying it would be reassuring to have her on the team, but the girl isn't interested. The blonde girl gives her a flat no, but Shizuku just shrugs it off, telling her the offer stands. The problem is, Shizuku's current teammates have a pretty bad reputation for hanging around with the guys who just got expelled. The blonde girl watches them, wondering if Shizuku really doesn't care about a person's character as long as they're strong. She wonders if Shizuku even knows what kind of people she's getting mixed up with. She looks back over at the bench, where Hinata and Aira are still just peacefully eating their lunch. They look happy, completely oblivious to the elite students watching them from the shadows. As Shizuku walks away, the blonde girl can't help but feel that the blue-haired girl is playing a very dangerous game. The training starts with a simple command: get your body in shape. Their homeroom teacher, Takashima Gonzo, explains that physical growth and artifact power go hand in hand. Class E might be behind, but he insists they still have a chance if they put in the work. It's their opportunity to prove their placement was a mistake. Hinata takes it to heart, ready to show everyone what he's actually capable of. Hagane, on the other hand, is already reaching his limit. Back in the classroom, Gonzo announces an upcoming reevaluation test. For them, it's the only way to claw their way out of the bottom rank. He tells them not to give up just because they started with low-tier gear. The test won't just look at artifacts, judgment and physical ability are on the table too. This year, the instructor emphasizes that teamwork will be the most crucial factor. The news hits the class differently. Takayuki looks nervous, while Hagane seems annoyed. Gonzo writes the rules on the board. Teams must consist of 2 to 5 members. Students are free to choose their own partners, regardless of what class they're in. Hagane scoffs, doubting anyone would actually want to partner with a bunch of losers. The teacher reminds them that cooperation is a requirement for any real guild warrior. He admits the school didn't expect much from Class E to begin with. Hagane sits by the lockers, stewing in the teacher's warning to work harder if they want to escape. He's convinced his life only went downhill because he ended up in this class. As he watches Hinata pass by, his resentment only grows. Later, Minase Shizuku checks in to see what the plan is. They discuss finding members for the test, aiming for a balanced group of vanguards and rearguards. Their lunch is interrupted when Hagane looms over them. He mocks the idea of anyone teaming up with the weakest guy in school. Minase doesn't hide her annoyance, asking why he's even there. Hagane grabs Hinata by the shirt, claiming he's been getting a bit too cocky. He tries to flex his authority, ordering Hinata to go buy him lunch. Hinata doesn't flinch, telling the bully to just get it himself. The refusal catches Hagane off guard, sending him into a quiet rage. He turns to Minase, asking if she's seriously planning to stick with the loser. She fires back, telling him Hinata is way better than someone who can't work in a team. Hagane can barely contain himself as she calls him out. She turns the question on him, asking if he thinks he has any teamwork skills himself. Hagane snaps, lunging at Takayuki to intimidate him instead. Takayuki stammers out a denial, clearly terrified of being caught in the middle. Unfazed, Minase decides she's teaming up with Takayuki anyway. She snaps her lunchbox shut, done wasting time on the drama. She tells Hinata they're leaving, and he follows her lead. As they walk off, she casually mentions that Hagane definitely won't be joining them. She admits they could still use one more person to round out the team. Hinata pauses, asking if he's really the right person for her to rely on. Minase gives him a look, telling him it's time he started having some confidence in his own strength. Minase tells Hinata they should use this test to blindside everyone who still thinks he's weak. As they leave, Instructor Elena watches from around the corner, keeping a close eye on them. She doesn't say anything, but her gaze lingers on the boy as he walks away. She notes that the entire vibe around Hinata has completely shifted since the start of the day. A smirk crosses her face. She's starting to think this kid might actually be worth watching. But the mood is much darker, back at the Class 1E room, where a violent shout echoes through the door. Hagane is busy taking his frustration out on the furniture, fuming over being looked down upon by his peers. Hagane calls out to his lackey, and Takayuki immediately jumps, nervously asking what he wants. Takayuki asks if it's true that people have actually died during these reevaluation tests in the past. On paper, the tests take place in D-rank portals where unexpected accidents are just a statistical reality. Hagane leans back, suggesting that maybe those accidents weren't so accidental after all. The dark implication is enough to make Takayuki break out in a cold sweat. Tapping the desk, the bully wonders aloud if history might just repeat itself during their upcoming exam. With a sinister grin, it's clear Hagane is already dreaming up a fatal accident for his rival. In a dimly lit room, a dedicated viewer is glued to his monitors, frantically typing away as he follows the latest news. The social feeds are blowing up with chatter about the Valkyria reevaluation exam happening next week. A student checks her phone while walking through the park, catching up on the drama surrounding that guy. Another guy on a bench laughs while scrolling through posts about the infamous naked broadcast accident. Even the adults are paying attention to the unofficial student lists that have started circulating online. It turns out there's a secret betting ring for the exam, where people put money on who'll take the top spots. The favorites are the usual elites, with Shizuku and Sachi having the lowest odds for victory. Buried at the very bottom is Asahi Hinata, with a massive 137x payout that shows just how little people expect from him. While the internet mocks him, the underdog himself is out in the woods, suited up and ready to train. Suddenly, a massive bear-like beast lunges from the brush with its claws ready to tear him apart. Hinata doesn't skip a beat, delivering a high kick that catches the monster right in the jaw. The beast goes down hard, completely neutralized by the single, precise strike. Hinata takes a moment to compare his gear, weighing the massive power of the rage suit against the standard Indomitable model. The strength boost is incredible, but the suit consumes too much energy, leaving him feeling drained. His status screen shows a penalty. The suit eats his stamina every second he wears it. He realizes he needs to get significantly stronger if he ever wants to use this power without passing out. Aira suddenly appears from the trees, waving and calling out to him as she approaches. She's out of breath, apologizing for being late because her supplementary class went into overtime. Hinata finds it weird that a military school places so much weight on academic performance. Aira looks at him curiously, asking if he's ever had to take a supplementary class himself. He just gives her a flat nope, which seems to surprise her given how tough the curriculum is. In reality, he's been a model student, often seen grinding through textbooks in the library alongside Shizuku. He modestly tells Aira he just does a bit of studying before bed, and she calls him incredibly diligent. Anyway, she shouts, hauling out a massive weapon. Let's go at it energetically today. They start discussing the reevaluation exam being right around the corner. Hinata suddenly senses something wrong, his eyes darting toward the tree line. A massive energy beam tears through the forest, forcing them both to jump back as the ground explodes. Aira is in shock, looking around wildly to figure out what's happening. A blonde girl with a large spear walks calmly into the clearing, telling Hinata he's changed. She notes that the old Hinata would never have noticed her attack. Hinata demands to know who she is and what she wants. She identifies herself as Shirohane Sachi, a Class A student rumored to be as strong as Shizuku. Hinata recognizes the name immediately, feeling the pressure of facing one of the school's elites. Sachi mentions that Shizuku has been acting strange lately, and she thinks Hinata is the cause. She decides to test him herself, lunging forward with her spear glowing with energy. Hinata is barely able to gasp in surprise before the golden blade is upon him. Sachi flips through the air with incredible grace, keeping her momentum as she continues the attack. She unleashes a focused burst of energy from the tip of her spear, aiming right for him. The resulting explosion rocks the entire area, kicking up a massive cloud of fire and debris. Eira screams Hinata's name, watching in terror from the sidelines. Sachi doesn't let up, diving through the smoke to deliver a follow-up strike. Hinata manages to throw up his arm, blocking the heavy spearhead as the two of them lock eyes in the chaos. Asahi Hinata blocks Sachi's spear with a precise parry, sparks flying as the two weapons collide. Sachi doesn't let up, swinging her massive golden spear in a fluid arc that forces Hinata to stay on the defensive. The sheer force of her strike vibrates through Hinata's arms, and he can feel just how much power she's packing. Sachi finally stops her assault and smiles, admitting that he's really changed since the last time they met. She notes that if he hasn't been hiding his skills all along, his growth in such a short time is truly immense. Hinata catches his breath, staring her down and demanding to know what she's actually after. Sachi explains that, while everyone is begging to team up with her for the reevaluation exam, she'd much rather work with someone interesting. With a playful grin, she extends her hand and asks if he wants to be on a team with her. Hinata's eyes widen in disbelief. There's no way one of the academy's top students just offered to carry the school's biggest loser. Ira stands in the background, completely dumbfounded by the turn of events as the top-tier blonde girl waits for an answer. Right after the battle, Minase Shizuku from Class A approaches Hinata. She seems surprisingly pleasant for someone who's one of the top-ranked students, but when she asks to be on the same team, Hinata immediately shuts her down. He's not being petty, he just doesn't get how she can attack him out of nowhere and then expect a partnership. Plus, he knows that just riding someone else's coattails won't actually help him improve. Teaming up might get him better marks, but he knows nobody would ever respect his own skills if he did. He's worried people would just talk behind his back and say he's using her. He's got his own reasons for needing to join a guild, and he's determined to earn his spot through his own strength. The girl finds his attitude interesting and decides she's seen enough for today. As she turns to leave, she tells him to hurry up and climb to the top, where she'll be waiting for him. The interaction leaves Hinata standing in the forest as the sun starts to set. His friend Sora is practically shaking him, unable to believe he just turned down a Class A team-up. Takayuki points out that the girl probably wasn't interested in Hinata personally anyway. She just didn't seem to care about anyone she didn't find intriguing. Since they can't expect real teamwork from someone like that, Hinata thinks they're better off as a duo. Sora sighs and accepts it. If Hinata's confident, she's in. Still, Hinata can't stop thinking about the level that girl is at. She's exceptional in every category: speed, tactics, and power. A true monster. He realizes she was even going easy on him when they clashed earlier. It's a humbling thought. He's got a long way to go to reach the top. He feels a bit cocky for thinking he'd gotten stronger just by winning one fight. There's no way he can catch up to her and sustain power output without finishing his update list. Suddenly, his system pings with a notification. He's been granted an audience with a figure named Bosum, far away, at the Hansai Otherworldly Creature Countermeasures headquarters. The top leaders are gathered for a Guild Alliance regular meeting. Minister of Defense Hagane Renpei reports that they still haven't found the cause behind the portal appearances. Hagura Hinji, the master of the S-Rank Phoenix Guild, sits back, listening to the bad news. Sherry Truman of the Deldoras Guild watches the presentation with a serious expression. S-Rank Guild Master Shio Ogai asks if they've really discovered nothing at all. Hagura claims they're completely in the dark, despite trying to close the portals themselves. Shio notes that his guild is in the same boat, having reported everything they know. Hagura doesn't seem convinced, suggesting maybe some guilds are keeping secrets to stay in business. Sherry is quick to shut that down, telling him not to lump her in with his petty way of thinking. The minister clears his throat to stop the bickering before it gets out of hand. He turns to the elder guildmaster Kureha, asking if he's found anything in the last 6 months. Kureha looks troubled as he starts to speak about his findings. According to him, the time intervals between portal appearances are getting shorter and shorter. The news sends a wave of concern through the other guildmasters. He warns that while they can handle it now, they might soon become unable to cope. Visions of a past catastrophe fill the room. A city, overrun by monsters and destruction. Stronger monsters are appearing every day, making the threat level skyrocket. The minister realizes the grim reality. They're facing another potential disaster, and time is running out. Guildmaster Heikain Kureha notes that they're going to need a lot more talent to handle the increasing threats. The officials are curious to know how the training for the next generation of successors is going. Principal Tsushima Atsushi is confident, noting that they have some very talented individuals currently moving through the ranks. Instructor Elena mentions that a re-evaluation exam is coming up soon, which should give them a better look at their progress. Kureha wants to know if there are any specific students they should be keeping a close eye on. The principal highlights 2 standout first years, Minase Shizuku and Shirohane Sachi. Shizuku wields Ryune Ornir, a powerful relic that allows her to freely manipulate life energy. Then there's Sachi, who possesses Gei Bolg, a legendary spear known for generating massive, explosive force. Kureha is already impressed, thinking Shizuku's offensive power would make her a perfect recruit for his guild. He asks if there are any others worth mentioning, but the principal wants him to see the rest for himself at the exam. The guildmaster emphasizes that it's especially critical to find successors who are skilled in defense. He explains that they still haven't managed to fill a major vacancy that opened up quite a long time ago. Then he remembers something: the son of the man who held that very position is currently enrolled at the school. He asks point blank if Asahi Hinata is still attending classes. The other guild masters immediately remember him as the weird kid with the relic that strips his clothes off whenever he uses it. Atsushi confirms that he's still a student, though Kureha doesn't understand why he's still bothering to show up. He assumes Hinata must have realized his relic is useless by now and wonders if he's just being stubborn or plain stupid. But the principal isn't so sure, watching a feed of Hinata and thinking he might actually be the standout performer this time around. It's finally re-evaluation exam day at Valkyria School, and the atmosphere is electric. A reporter stands before a massive crowd, noting that the heat is unbelievable for a simple school event. This year's exam is being held inside a spontaneously appearing D-rank portal, drawing eyes from across the country. High above the festivities, Elena watches the scene from the observation deck. She stands alongside Director Kim, observing just how lively the campus has become for the occasion. Down on the ground, people are enjoying the festival-like vibe, grabbing snacks while they wait for the results. Elena remarks that, in a world full of depressing news, everyone probably just needs a breather like this. Director Kim thanks her for the security detail, but she insists it's just her guild's job to help train the next generation. Her gaze shifts to someone specific in the crowd below as she notices something interesting. Bandana student walks through the festival with Minase Shizuku, looking completely at ease. Elena points out that the student next to him is the same, making the director wonder how she can tell just by looking. The bandana student casually eats as he walks, radiating a quiet confidence despite the dangerous exam ahead. Other students are scattered around the venue, gorging on street food before they have to enter the portal. Asahi Hinata heads toward the entrance, walking alongside Ira with a determined look on his face. The destination for the exam is the Twisted Garden, a D-class portal filled with unknown dangers. A highlight video plays on the big screen, showing a student trembling with fear while holding her sword. A massive, four-armed red monster looms over her, ready to turn her into a snack. The girl lets out a terrified scream as the beast prepares to strike. Just before the monster can land a blow, a blur of motion slashes through the air. A guild rescue team swoops in, catching the student and securing the area in seconds. The rescuer tells her to follow him back to the portal entrance, where it's safe. The video ends, and the reporter asks the audience if they enjoyed it, while the chat is flooded with praise for the S-Rank Guild. The broadcast highlights how quickly they were able to secure the area, ensuring everyone's safety. This year, they're even deploying drones inside the portal to monitor the students' every move. While some viewers mock the rescued students as pathetic, others commend their courage for even stepping inside. Students are tasked with earning evaluation points by hunting down the monsters roaming the garden. They can also earn points by collecting magic stones from the beasts they successfully defeat. Gathering rare items like ores and plants hidden throughout the portal also counts toward their final score. A group of students celebrates after finding a valuable crystal, clearly happy with their progress. Teamwork is also a major evaluation criteria, with points given for coordinated attacks and defense. The screen shows a pair of students demonstrating a perfect back-to-back combat stance. The reporter reminds everyone of the 60-minute time limit as the world wonders which student will stand out this year. Hinata and Ira aren't fans of the variety show treatment, finding the whole broadcast a bit unpleasant. Ira sucks on her lollipop, her eyes narrowing as she watches the screen. She asks Hinata if the whole spectacle is bothering him too. Hinata keeps his head high, saying he has no reason to be annoyed. Their conversation is cut short as Hagane and his lackey approach with arrogant smirks. Hinata and Ira turn to face the red-haired bully as he invades their personal space. Hagane taunts Hinata, asking if he's clueless about how much the internet is buzzing over this exam. He looks Hinata up and down, laughing at his simple attire and calling him a pathetic cosplayer. He claims he just happened to pass by and noticed him, but his smug grin says he's only there to stir up trouble. Hagane places a hand on Hinata's arm, wearing a fake smile as he tells him to just relax and skip the fighting today. He leans in, reminding Hinata that today is an important day for everyone, and there's no need for unnecessary tension. An announcement cuts through the air, signaling that the reevaluation exam for the second group is about to begin. Hagane walks off with his group, leaving Hinata and Ira standing there as they watch his smug departure. He waves a casual goodbye, telling them to do their best, while the glasses-wearing student behind him steals a lingering glance back. The glasses-wearing student finally turns and runs to catch up with Hagane, leaving a heavy silence behind. Ira watches them go, frustrated that she still can't figure out what Hinata is thinking behind that calm exterior. A giant monitor flashes over the arena, asking the students if they're ready to face the portal. A student pumps himself up, shouting that this is a life-or-death exam they can't afford to fail. An official holds up a red device, explaining that students should use it immediately if an emergency arises inside the portal. Elena stands with her guard unit, promising that the Deldoras will be ready to rescue anyone who gets in over their head. With the signal given, The students charge toward the portal while the livestream viewers' excitement hits a fever pitch. Comments flood the screen as the first wave of students disappears into the gateway, with viewers curious about how much they've improved. Hagane and the glasses student sprint inside, determined to show the world the results of their training. The sound of rhythmic footsteps echoes through the portal as students try to prove they can change their rank. Hinata joins the fray, showing off a sleek new red and maroon suit that immediately catches the audience's attention. Era follows close behind him, lugging a massive gun weapon that looks incredibly powerful. Hinata suddenly stops in his tracks, his eyes wide as he senses something dangerous waiting for them in the shadows. A massive four-armed red monster emerges from the trees, towering over the clearing. The beast slams its massive fist into the ground with a roar, sending a shockwave through the area. The monster bellows a challenge, its eyes glowing with a feral hunger as it prepares to tear the students apart. Hinata doesn't flinch, his new red suit gleaming as he prepares to show everyone exactly what he's capable of. Director Kim is back at the office, glued to his tablet as the footage rolls in. On the screen, Hinata is pulling off moves no one expected from a Class E student. Out in the city, people are stopping in their tracks, wondering if this kid is actually for real. Elena can't help but smirk as she watches the broadcast. She points out to the director that a sacred item-changing form like that is incredibly rare. It's a complete 180 from when everyone was calling him the useless naked suit guy. The director notes that Elena doesn't usually have much patience for people without talent, but even the bottom-tier E-class has to have some spark to get through the door. Now that Hinata's showing his hand, she's fully convinced there's something special about him. The director looks pretty satisfied, figuring this performance just saved the kid from expulsion. The replay shows Hinata diving right into the thick of it against the boss. That glowing red gauntlet was definitely the star of the show. Before the final blow, the beast was still putting up a massive fight. It let out a roar that would have sent most students running for the hills. Then, a sudden flash of light cut right through the chaos. Akane was right there, providing cover fire with her massive Gatling gun. She kept the pressure on, peppering the monster with lead so Hinata could close the gap. She shouts his name, knowing this is the make-or-break moment. Hinata launches himself high into the air, looking down at his target. He's not just relying on raw power, it's about the perfect timing and skill. He drops the rage fist right on the monster's skull, ending the fight then and there. As the smoke clears, the monster dissolves into nothingness. A purple cord drops to the ground, the ultimate prize for their hard work. Hinata picks it up, realizing he's back in his standard yellow suit. He gives Akane a thumbs up, thanking her for the assist. She winks back, giving him props for that final, devastating punch. But while they're celebrating, Hagane is lurking in the trees, looking absolutely miserable. The bully scowls from the shadows, clearly hating that the loser is winning. Akane is riding high, thrilled that all their secret training is finally showing results. Hinata clenches his fist, still feeling the lingering power of that rage mode. It's basically a charge skill. The suit stores energy and lets it all go in one burst. He realizes just how much ground he's covered in only 2 weeks. Suddenly, a giant bug zips in from behind, and Akane spots it instantly. Before it can even touch him, it's already on the ground, smoking. Akane blows the smoke off her gun, asking if she's the best or what. Hinata's gotta admit, she's perfectly covering all his blind spots. She's been putting in the work too, grinding her aim and fire rate to keep up. Her detection skills have leveled up, and she senses more trouble coming their way. A pack of hobgoblins is closing in, thinking they've found an easy snack. She calls out the count, and Hinata doesn't hesitate for a second. He charges straight at the pack, moving faster than he ever could before. Akane handles the long-range support, while Hinata starts tearing through the goblins. Hinata doesn't waste any time, delivering a heavy blow that catches the goblin right in the jaw. The impact is pure power, sending shockwaves through the creature's face. He follows up with a crushing punch that sends the monster tumbling backward into the dirt. Hinata stands over the fallen loot, feeling a surge of confidence as he eyes a large pink crystal. Akane runs up, ecstatic, holding another crystal shard. They've actually managed to do it again. At this rate, Hinata knows the school won't be able to ignore their results for much longer. Deep in the forest, Hagane is lurking in the shadows, far away from the action. Kurimura Takayuki approaches him cautiously, asking how the plan is going. Hagane is seething, leaning against a tree with a look of pure frustration. The bully finally snaps, slamming his metal gauntlet into the trunk of a tree. He screams in a fit of rage, unable to believe that piece of trash is actually making it through the test. He wonders if Hinata's sudden success is all thanks to Akane's help. The thought of Hinata potentially going easy on him all this time makes Hagane's blood boil. His eyes go wide with a mix of fury and madness as he decides it's time to change tactics. He tells Takayuki that they're sticking to the original plan after all. Hagane gets right in his face, making sure the terrified boy understands exactly what he needs to do. Takayuki produces a strange device, looking completely miserable about being forced into this. Inside the machine, 2 vials of glowing liquid start to bubble and swirl together. The device is ready, and Hagane watches with a cold, focused intensity. He wears a wicked grin, realizing that since they defeated the ogre, he'll just have to send something much worse. The portal's boss has been unleashed, and it's headed straight for Hinata. Since the start of the interdimensional war, heroes have been the ultimate celebrities. This kid spent his whole childhood glued to the TV, idolizing them. Seeing the big guilds make an impact really shaped his worldview. He promised himself that one day, he'd be standing right there with them. But that dream crashed pretty fast when he realized his own potential was a joke. His relic, called Steel Factor, wasn't exactly a high-tier weapon. All it did was extract essence to make potions nothing a hero would ever use. Without any combat power, he couldn't even handle basic goblins. His evaluation confirmed he was bottom tier, rank 1, class E. To move up, he knew he had to attach himself to someone with actual strength, someone like Hagane, so he started sucking up to the school bully just to survive. He stood by and watched while Hagane used Asahi Hinata as a personal punching bag. He felt guilty, sure, but mostly he was just glad he wasn't the one getting hit. He watched Hagane humiliate Asahi in front of the whole class. Seeing Asahi get soaked, he thought it was pathetic that there were people even worse off than him. But things changed when Asahi actually started getting stronger. He was shocked to see Asahi turn the tables and make the same bullies crawl. While the bowl cut guy was busy kissing ass, Asahi was actually putting in the work. Seeing Asahi's success just made him bitter. Hagane, meanwhile, was ready to take their game to a darker level. He had the classmate mark Asahi's back with a glowing handprint. Even though he knew it was wrong, he did it anyway. They followed a drone deep into the forest to set their trap. Hagane told him he'd leave the rest of the dirty work to him. He aimed his relic at the sleeping boss while Hagane watched. He fired, injecting the beast with a chemical compound. The creature let out a monstrous roar as the potion took hold. Hagane was impressed by how fast the effects kicked in. He confirmed it was the berserk pheromone they were using. The plan was simple. The monster would go into a frenzy and target whoever was smeared with the pheromone, which was Asahi. The bowl cut guy was shocked it actually worked on a portal boss. Hagane reminded him he was just as guilty, since he was the one who fired the shot. When he tried to act like a victim, Hagane called him out on how pathetic he was. Hagane just gave him a cold, mocking smile. Then Hagane decided they'd seen enough, and it was time to bail. The guy was confused, not realizing he was being left behind. Hagane pulled out another bottle with a malicious look. Before he could even ask why, Hagane splashed the potion all over him. Hagane told him they needed to destroy the evidence, which meant getting rid of him. The berserk monster immediately lunged at its new target. He panicked, clutching his head and screaming in disbelief. Hagane explained that if they got caught, they'd be expelled, so they needed someone to take the fall. He realized too late that Hagane was pinning the entire incident on him. Hagane's final words were a cruel warning to run for his life before the monster tore him apart. Takayuki is in a full-blown panic. He's desperately searching his pockets for an emergency device or some way to call the guild for backup. He's shocked to find it's gone. It hits him all at once. Hagane set him up from the very beginning and planned to leave him for dead. The Chimera is right on his heels. He has one potion left, but there's zero time to use it to mask his scent. He's cornered and ready for the end, thinking about how truly hopeless his situation is. Suddenly, a crystal shard flies through the air, catching the light as it lands in front of him. Asahi Hinata is here, looking ready for a fight in his growth-type suit. Eira is right behind him, relieved they found their friend. Aira is ecstatic, thinking that if they survive this, she might actually make it into Class D. Asahi just gives her a confident nod, but the celebration is cut short when something suddenly splashes right onto Asahi's chest. Aira's eyes go wide in worry, asking if he's okay as the liquid starts to smoke on his suit. Asahi touches the mysterious liquid, wondering what it is and who would throw it at him in the middle of a battle. He looks over and spots Hagane lurking in the shadows. He calls out the bully's name, ready for a confrontation. Nearby, Takayuki is on the ground, bleeding and exhausted. He's relieved that, at the very least, Asahi won't be the one his group targets next. Aira is shouting at Hagane to stay back, realizing just how dangerous the situation is with the portal boss nearby. Takayuki is frozen in terror as the Chimera looms over him, its multiple heads snarling with bloodlust. Just as the beast is about to strike, Asahi leaps into action. His suit has shifted to a deep red as he blocks the massive paw, protecting his friend from a lethal blow. The impact sends a shockwave through the forest, and Asahi grunts as he holds back the creature's raw strength. After pushing the beast back, Asahi turns his attention to the bully on the ground. He asks Hagane if he's still alive, his voice cold and commanding. Takayuki looks up at him, tears in his eyes, wondering why Asahi would ever bother saving someone who betrayed him. Asahi just stares him down, telling him that his fate hasn't been decided yet. Asahi stands his ground, facing the massive Chimera once more. Even after everything, he doesn't know how to give up. The crowd watches the Jumbotron in disbelief as a massive monster towers over the students. Instructor Elena barks orders to the rescue teams, shouting that they're dealing with a dangerous C2 ranked beast. She turns to Director Kim, her face tight with worry, as she realizes this whole situation looks like a setup. Normally, these portal bosses never leave their core area like this. If that glowing core gets smashed, the entire portal structure just folds in on itself. Director Kim rubs his face, admitting he's never seen anyone do something so incredibly reckless. He knows there are only a handful of students who even have the power to pull something like this off. He suspects Hagane might have been played for a fool in all of this. But for right now, all their chips are riding on Hinata. Out in the field, the Chimera lets out a roar that shakes the ground. Asahi Hinata is right in the thick of it, while Aira rushes over with a heavy equipment case. Aira can barely look, terrified that the situation is becoming way too dangerous. Hinata doesn't hesitate, shoving Hagane out of the way just as the beast lunges. He screams for his classmates to stay back, but he's barely holding it together himself. He's still feeling the recoil from his last big hit, his body struggling to keep up. The monster's aura is massive, the gap in their power levels is basically a canyon. Still, Hinata clenches his fist, refusing to back down as his red suit starts to glow. He launches himself forward, a tiny red blur against the massive Chimera. He puts everything into one desperate punch. The blow connects with a thunderous impact, sending shockwaves through the forest. Hinata stares wide-eyed, hoping that was enough to stop it. But the monster isn't done, and a massive hit sends Hinata flying. He gasps. As his vision blurs, the air knocks straight out of him. He slams hard into a tree, just as Aira pulls out a massive minigun and calls his name. She rushes to his side, asking if he's still in one piece. Hinata tells her to keep her distance, but the girl is too scared to leave him. The monster's tail whips through the air, nearly catching them both. Hinata tumbles across the dirt, his body taking a serious beating. He's down on one knee, blood dripping onto the ground as he struggles to catch his breath. Hagane watches from the sidelines, wondering why on earth Hinata keeps dragging himself back up. Aira begs him to just run away while they still can. She knows they're completely outclassed here and can't win. Hinata's legs are shaking, but he's thinking about using his revenge skill to even the odds. He knows he can't win a straight fight, and he's running out of options. Hagane suddenly yells for him to stop, unable to watch his friend get torn apart anymore. He screams that this is all his fault, and tells the others to just leave him behind. In a desperate move, Hagane starts baiting the monster himself, trying to draw it away. The Chimera takes the bait and charges at the defenseless student. Hinata forces himself into the air, leaping right over the monster's head to intercept. He swings for another strike, but the beast is too fast. The goat head of the Chimera snaps its jaws shut, sinking its teeth deep into Hinata. He gets slammed into the dirt, pinned down by the massive predator. Hagane rushes over to Hinata, screaming at him to get up and run before the monster finishes him off. But Hinata slowly pushes himself off the ground, standing tall as he declares that he's not going anywhere. Hagane stares at him in pure shock, unable to understand why he'd risk everything just to stay. Hinata admits that he'd escape if he could take everyone with him, but he won't leave his friends behind. He remembers the person he looks up to most, a hero who never ignored someone in trouble, no matter how dangerous it got. If he turns tail and runs away now, he knows he'll never be able to face that person again. He turns back to the Chimera, desperately hoping that a high-ranking hero like Deldoris is already on the way. All he has to do is hold on for a little while longer and keep the beast busy until help arrives. Suddenly, the monster's massive tail slams down with bone-crushing force, sending a shockwave of dust into the air. Watching from the tree line, Takayuki wears a malicious grin, clearly enjoying the sight of Hinata's struggle. A system window suddenly flashes in the air, confirming that the impossible quest has finally been accomplished. But a second, ominous notification pops up. The condition was death, and now he has permission to meet. Asahi Hinata finds himself floating in an endless blue sky, far from the battlefield. He looks around, completely lost as to how he got here. A mysterious voice breaks the silence, and he sees a gloved hand resting near a small, knowing smile. Sitting on a grand throne is a girl with silver hair and a strange mark on her face, calling him her master. Hinata can only stare in disbelief at the person who claims to have been waiting for him. He tries to wrap his head around it. He was just fighting a portal boss a second ago. A sudden darkness washes over everything, with a chilling message telling him he's already dead. The silver-haired girl appears right behind him, clarifying that he's actually just on the verge of it. She explains that the only reason he's still breathing is because she summoned him to this space. Hinata looks around at the infinite horizon, wondering what on earth is happening. The girl just smiles, enjoying his confusion as she floats through the air. She reveals that this is a mental world under her total control. It's the world that exists inside his very suit, the holy relic he's been wearing. Hinata's eyes go wide as he realizes the weapon he was given is far more than just a piece of gear. She conjures a sphere of light and water between her hands to show him the truth. Inside the bubble, he sees the terrifying reality. The Chimera boss is about to crush his physical body. She tells him that if he doesn't react immediately, he's as good as gone. He looks at her, realizing she's the one who's been keeping him in the game this whole time. Relief washes over him, and he gives her a quick pat on the head, apologizing for doubting her. She immediately smacks his hand away, telling him it's way too early to start feeling relieved. Her expression turns serious as she warns him that his current path leads straight to death. She can only offer her direct assistance this one time, as her own strength is running low. Beckoning him closer, she tells him she's going to give him a little boost. Without warning, she jabs her fingers toward his eyes, making him recoil in pain. Hinata lets out a muffled scream as a bright light erupts from his vision. She tells him to just endure it, explaining that his opponent isn't actually unbeatable. The problem is his fighting style is too rigid, and he needs a new perspective. His eyes begin to glow with an intense, blue energy as the adjustment takes hold. He manages to gasp out a question, asking who she really is and why she's in his suit. She gives a cryptic answer, calling herself nothing more than a nameless traitor. Suddenly, the world begins to warp, and she tells him their time is up. Hinata reaches out, desperate for more answers, but his body starts to dissolve. Her hand reaches toward him as she tells him to get stronger if he wants to know the rest. She asks him if he's curious about why these holy relics were given to them in the first place. Hinata sinks into the abyss, his mind swirling with questions he can't even voice. She tells him they'll meet again, as his consciousness completely detaches from the suit's world. Back in the real world, Hinata's eyes snap open, burning with a new, radiant power. The Chimera's massive tail slams into the ground right where he was standing an instant ago. Ida watches from the side, trembling as she thinks Hinata has been crushed by the impact. But he's already airborne, moving with a speed that defies the eye. He flips through the air with effortless grace, his movements no longer rigid. Era screams for him to run, still unable to see that the tide of the battle has just shifted. Hinata's eyes burn with an intense blue light as he realizes he can see the monster's movements perfectly. The Chimera lunges forward, its massive claws tearing through the air where he just was. He evades the strike with ease, his body moving more fluidly than it ever has before. The boss unleashes a barrage of attacks, but Hinata weaves through them as if he knows exactly where they'll land. A direct swipe from the right side fails to connect, leaving the creature wide open. Another strike from the left is easily dodged, and Hinata realizes he can see every sinister detail of the beast's intent. It's not just the physical movement he's tracking anymore, but the killing aura emanating from the beast. Thanks to his newly adjusted vision, the weak points in the monster's defense are laid bare. Gathering all his strength, Hinata clenches his fist as red energy begins to swirl around it. Nearby, a group of students led by the Academy's elite arrives on the scene, shouting that they've found the monster. The rescuers stop, saying, "Hold on, let him cook." Hinata's expression is cold and focused as the word revenge flashes through his mind. He charges forward with explosive speed, a trail of red energy following his glowing form. The Chimera roars and attempts a counterattack, but Hinata is already closing the distance. He prepares to deliver a blow fueled by all the rage and frustration he's kept bottled up. With a deafening roar of power, he lands the rage fist squarely in the beast's chest, sending shockwaves through the forest. Hinata delivers the final blow, punching right through the massive beast. Elena can't believe her eyes. The livestream chat is losing it, wondering how a loser suit user pulled this off. Even viewers at home are glued to their screens, stunned by the upset. Out on the street, people stop in their tracks to watch the impossible victory unfold. Everyone who bet against him is suddenly regretting their life choices. In a hospital room, Hinata's sister watches the screen with bated breath. She lets out a cheer, her eyes lighting up for her brother. Back at the venue, the crowd is buzzing. Nobody expected a Class C student to be this powerful. Students in the crowd exchange looks of disbelief. Shizuku and the others are just as shocked by the raw power on display. The bandana student realizes that the bullies who targeted Hinata just got served. He watches with a smirk. Things just got way more interesting. The portal boss lies motionless in the crater, completely neutralized. Hinata's suit demanifests as he drops to one knee, completely spent. Takayuki and Ira rush over to check on him. They help him up, but Hinata's body is at its limit. From the shadows, Hagane watches with pure malice, realizing his sabotage failed. He remembers Hinata's sudden burst of speed and power. Panic sets in. If Hinata reports what happened, Hagane is finished. He decides there's only one way out of this mess. Hagane clenches his fist, determined to finish Hinata off right here. His lackey looks worried, realizing how far this is going, but Hagane shuts him down, threatening him to stay in line. Security feeds capture the entire exchange in the woods. The guards report the situation to the command center immediately. Elena rubs her temples, frustrated by Hagane's blatant disregard for the rules. She orders an immediate arrest to stop the situation before it escalates. But Director Kim holds her back, wanting to see how this plays out. He believes stopping it now will only make things worse in the long run. He wants to see if Hagane will actually cross that line. Elena is hesitant to let a student handle a relic user on their own. She looks at her screen, seeing Hinata struggling to even stand. The director just smiles, betting on Hinata's hidden potential. Hagane charges out of the brush, his metal gauntlet relic glowing. Hinata's friends are caught off guard as the bully screams his name. Hagane swings with everything he's got, aiming to end it in one hit. A massive shockwave erupts, but it's not the hit Hagane expected. Hinata stares him down, realizing just how large the skill gap actually is. Hagane swings wildly, his movements clumsy and fueled by rage. Even without his suit, Hinata's reflexes are on another level. He steps into the opening and lands a clean punch right on Hagane's jaw. Hinata sends the bully crashing to the ground with a final, heavy blow. He looks down at the guy, asking if he was the one behind all the sabotage. Hagane's bleeding and gasping for air as Hinata grabs him, telling him he's had enough. Hagane tries to retaliate with his gauntlet, but his movements are desperate. Hinata stays right in his face, his expression cold and unforgiving. He shuts down the attack easily, calling the bully's behavior nothing but childish. He admits that he never bothered with the guy before because he simply wasn't worth the effort. Hagane can only stare up in pure terror, the realization of his defeat sinking in. He remembers all the times he mocked Hinata, never imagining it would end like this. He screams in denial, but he's already lost the fight. Another impact sends him reeling back, his strength completely gone. Hagane lies unconscious on the path as Hinata's friends watch from the shadows. Hinata fixes his collar for a guy like this. He didn't even need to use his holy relic. Ira runs over to join him, her face filled with relief. From the command center, Elena watches the feed and sighs, knowing it's finally over. Director Kim smiles, noting that this was the inevitable result of years of hidden hard work. With the bullies dealt with, the second group's retest is officially concluded as Hinata leads the way out.